Going to reupholster this cute little armchair. I actually got two of these in exactly the same. I'm going to start by removing the utility fabric. Remove all the staples. There's a lot of staples in these little chairs. Just got to be patient, get them all out. If the staples break when you get them out, it's not a big deal. The utility fabric's now gone, so I'm going to remove all the staples that are holding the fabric to the bottom of the frame of the chair. Again, if the staples break, you're just going to go around with a hammer and hammer them down. This will save your fingers from any scratches or anything later on. Now I'm going to go around with my hammer. This particular chair has a seam going up the back. They're not all like this, but this one is. It also has a glued in seam of piping. This particular chair, the client does not want the wood refinished, so I put some blue tape on there to protect the wood so I could get a start on my piping. Again, this piping is just glued in, so once you get it out a little bit, you're going to be able to just pull hard as you can, and it'll come away from that inner seam. And there is staples inside that inner seam that's holding the fabric on. I'm going to save all my existing piping so I can use it for measurement on the new. I just went ahead and used my blade and cut this fabric off because you're not going to be able to get in that groove and remove all the staples without damaging the wood. Here's my template from the back that I'm going to save for later when I cut out my new fabric. This will save a lot of time and a headache. This particular chair has 4 screws on the bottom, and that's holding the seat into place. So I'm going to remove the screws. Let's remove the seat, because I can't get that bit of fabric off without removing that seat part. So we've unscrewed it, the seat is out. So usually get some goodies in there. I usually put these in a little baggie for my clients. Here's my seat removed. Now we're going to remove all the staples to take that front bit of fabric off, all the staples around the bottom edge, and then we'll pull the piping off of the front just like we did on the back. Here's our chair completely torn apart. The frame looks great. There's nothing that needs to be repaired. At this stage I would normally do the wood, but the client doesn't want it. This is the fabric that she's chosen. I'm going to decide if I want it vertical or horizontal. I think I'm going to go vertical with this fabric with the stripe. I'm going to take some measurements of the seat now. And I'm going to mark it that I know I want my fabric to run vertical across the seat that way. And this particular little piece has a lot of different pieces to it. So I need to make sure that I measure every piece and don't forget anything. And bear in mind how the pieces sit on the chair on where the line of the fabric goes as well. One last piece. Here is my back fabric. I'm going to show you that I did some drew some lines on it. That'll help me line it up when I make my template on my new fabric. It'll just help it sew and sit better. So I'm going to cut the side pieces off now. And this is exactly how I did the front as well. So I'm going to take this template now. Now, because the new fabric I have on my desk upside down, I've got to make sure that this is upside down as well. Now, it looks crooked, but it is the way it sits on the chair. So I have to make sure that it's sitting the exact way so it sits on the chair properly. I'm going to use the old piping and make some new piping. Now we're going to make the piping with our new. You need a 2-inch strip. I've got it running vertical, the pattern. And now I'm just going to pin my cord all the way down. And then I'll sew it as close to the cord as I can get it. I've got 2 big pieces of piping on these chairs, front and back. And you can see here the cord. Now I'm going to show you how to put all the pieces I cut together on the little seat part. Everything fits, everything's measured. Now this corner edge, I need to put my pinch seam in here. Just think about how you want it to look when it's reversed around the other side. So I've got my first pinch seam, and this particular pinch seam has 2. So then I'll grab my second pinch seam. And then I'll just make sure that I tack it all. As you can see, it's been tacked here. So you want to make sure your pinch seam is exactly the same on one side as it is on the other side. So completely vertical. And then I'll just sew my seat part all together. Now we're going to use some spray glue and add some new upholstery batting to the seat. This just gives it a new feel, makes it feel a bit nicer, especially when the client doesn't want new foam. This particular foam is in great shape though, so she didn't need to replace it, but I always add extra batting. Just give it a quick trim. Now you can see where I've used my template of the back on my new fabric now, and I'm going to use my lines and line them up, pin it, sew it, and then here I'm going to add some new batting to the inside of the back. The fabric now has been pinned. I pin it in place so I can step back and look and make sure everything's straight. And then I'll put in a couple of tacks just to hold it in place. Just pulling from side to side. Now it's a lot easier to lay it on its back now that I have it in place, and I'm going to go around that groove. Keep pulling side to side until everything fits perfectly, and I've got the end of my stapler right inside the groove where it's supposed to go. See, I'm pulling and pulling. Making sure everything's sitting smooth. Now I've got it back up, I'm going to go and hit all the grooves and just really put it on there tight. Here it's on, so I need to cut this, but I'm going to use my blade and go right up against the outside of the staple. Here I'm going to attach that front piece of fabric. Get the edges nice. It's just folded on this particular chair. Just give it plenty of staples. Make sure that your vertical line is straight on that too. And pay attention to the way your pattern is sitting. And then the back, you should have a little groove where the old fabric seam was. That'll help me line it up. a little groove in the existing foam. So I'm going to just pin it where that groove is, and then I'll shoot a couple tacks in it, and that will help me position it in straight, and then I'm going to start pulling side to side. So we'll start with one side and then we go to the other side. You want to make sure that sewed seam is laying flat as well, that it's not all twisted before you start stapling it on, because that would just be awful. That seam has to be laying flat. Now the edges I'm just going to fold and tuck. And then the same with the back. You're going to make a little cut where the wood leg goes up, just up like that, and then you're going to fold and tuck. Some are easier than others. This one was a little wonky, but I got it in the end. Now I'm going to cut the excess off the piping I made as close to the stitch as I can get it, because that has to be glued into that seam. I'm going to start with the middle of the piping and the middle of the back of the chair. And I'm going to do it in a couple of inch increments. I know it takes longer, but the glue dries quickly, and this way you can make sure you're really setting it exactly where you want it. And I'll do that all the way around. Same with the back. Start with the middle of the piping, and you're going to do just a couple of inches at a time until you get it going all the way around. Really push it into that groove. And there we go. Do all the way to the back. Now I'm going to place the seat that we had redone. Make sure that sits there nicely. Everything's lined up. Now we're going to put our 4 screws back in. And then last we attach the new black utility fabric, and here is the chair all finished and ready to go. Super cute little chair, and I have 2 of these, so they match and they look cute.